So rather than always giving them like the last version of the boss, the final form of the boss, which maybe has been hit with a few nerfs, let's not do that anymore. Let's give them a more challenging version of the boss. Like, I'll give you an example of like Muru, right?
Es
where
kommt
the initial version of that boss had a lot of spell pushback.
Im PvE, Leute.
And so, like, that made it really tough to bring casting classes to that fight. We did fix that pretty quickly and change the fight to allow for that. Now, that's a change we probably would incorporate in this, right?
But in retrospect, Seal of Blood was just so much better. And so one of the changes that we are going to make is we are going to give the opposite faction's seal to the other faction. But we're going to do that at max level. So we keep just a little bit of that faction identity, where Horde will get Seal of Blood at level 64 on schedule, and then get Seal of Vengeance at level 70. And similarly, Alliance will get Seal of Vengeance at level 64, and then their equivalent, Seal of the Martyr. Another thing we want to talk about is arena teams. When it first came out in Burning Crusade, the arena team system only let you have the same number of
Leute, seid ihr im Hype? Dürfen wir das zeigen, ja, oder? Hoggers in den Chat, du, Leute! Geil! Ist das Hodor? Das ist Hodor, Junge. DJ Hodor. DJ Hodor. Das ist Mosen, ja. Wir gehen noch mal kurz rüber. Der scheiß Schamane hier. So, in dem Sinne würde ich sagen, Leute, nochmal einen wunderschönen guten Abend in die Runde. Wer ist im Chat am Start? Wer ist da, Leute? Pock in den Chat, TBC in den Chat. Alle TBC in den Chat schreiben, go! DJ Hodor. Heute, ladies and gentlemen, good evening. Today is the day. Will the Burning Crusade open its gates once again? Are you prepared? This is DJ Hodor. 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 Macht euch ein schönes Getränk auf, Leute. Gamescom vor allem. Perfekt, moin, Gamescom. Blizzcon 2021. Hier live bei Defiler TV. Geil, ey. Geiler Typ. Christian Nern. Geil.
Welcome to BlizzCon Line, a celebration of 30 years of Blizzard communities and 30 years of Blizzard games. 30 years is so many years, and last year maybe felt like one of the longest of all. For World of Warcraft, we'll be showing you what's next for both Shadowlands and Classic. I'm sure you're all burning in anticipation for that one.
Ja.
Hearthstone is getting back to its roots in a major way. We can't wait to show you how.
So we've talked quite a bit about Shadowlands. Classic players, now it's your turn. It's my pleasure to hand off to my teammate, Holly Longdale. She's a longtime WoW player, a veteran MMO developer, and she's going to tell us what's in store for WoW Classic.
Classic Mobile, let's go! Alle TBC in den Chat, Leute. TBC in den Chat.
First, I'd like to thank all of you who have ever been part of the WoW community over the years. You know, online worlds like WoW have been a huge part of our lives for decades now. As a dedicated MMO fan and a developer myself, I remember hearing that Blizzard was going to be making their own MMO. And I thought, well, I guess I'll check out that beta. And sure, we all call the game WoW. But really, wow. I could not believe I got bit by the MMO bug again. I was so excited to be able to make a Night Elf Hunter and be like that famous Dark Elf Ranger from the books that I loved. I have to tell you, Azeroth was, and still is, a place I love to live.
Ja.
Since last year, I've had the great honor to work alongside the WoW Classic team to bring these nostalgic experiences back to life for longtime fans and a whole new generation of players. As a fan myself, I've had so much fun in WoW. From the simple things like drive-by buffing or making friends on that long haul from Teldrassil to Ironforge, all the way to the absolutely staggering, like when I jumped blindly through the Dark Portal and was running through Hellfire Peninsula, heard this terrifying noise, and then saw the Fell Reaver.
Okay.
Biggest roamer I had ever seen, and I was very glad I had feigned death in that moment. And that's the thing about WoW. These stories and experiences we all share keep us coming back time after time. With that said, I'm super excited to be able to share with you where our adventures are taking us next.
Mach eine Story. Oh mein Gott. Oh mein Gott. It's happening. Endlich, Leute.
10.000 Jahre in Gefangenschaft.
TBC in den Chat,
Und
TBC in den Chat.
nun wagt ihr es, mein Reich zu betreten.
Oh mein Gott. So geil, ey. Burning Crusade kommt, Leute, es ist unglaublich.
Das habt ihr von eurer Dummheit. Erstickt an meinem Blut.
Tod den Eindringlingen!
Ich werde eure Welt auf den Kopf stellen!
Habe ich alles noch nie geradet, ne? Alles noch nie geradet. Das ist so geil, Leute.
Ihr wisst nicht, was euch erwartet.
There we go. Junge, yes! Aber noch kein Datum, oder wie?
Brings back so many memories, right? Like exploring the fungal forests of Zangarmarsh, or being awestruck at the chaotic magic alive in Netherstorm, the Draenei in Exodar, the Blood Elves in Silvermoon. I love playing them both. Do you choose to enlist the Aldor or the Scryers in your quest to fight the Legion? And of course, we can't forget gathering all your friends to fight Illidan at the top of the Black Temple. I can't wait to relive it all with you.
Oh Gott,
Since
Leute.
the team first set out on their own
Endlich.
quest to bring the original WoW back to life,
Bestätigung.
we have learned a ton about what players are expecting from this kind of experience. We've also learned when to keep things just as they were and where we all might be open to some changes.
Ja, ja,
We're
ja.
bringing all these lessons into Burning Crusade Classic.
Changes.
With our primary goal to bring back the same feeling you had when
Ja.
you faced the Fell
Genau,
Reaver
wir
for
wollen
the
das
first
Gefühl.
time.
Wir wollen nicht die
Or
gleichen Patches, das gleiche Gefühl.
when
Genau,
you
richtig.
were digging through piles of Fellhound poop.
Pfeffer und Kacke, ja genau.
Of course, we can't get this right without you, our incredible community.
Ich?
Soon, you'll be able to revisit Outland yourself when beta starts and tell us what you think.
Beta.
Later, all WoW Classic players are going to be presented with a meaningful choice for each one of your beloved characters. Do you want to move on into Burning Crusade Classic? Or do you want to stay in the original Classic era forever? Whatever you decide, you can do it all with your one WoW subscription. Now, I know I've thrown a lot at you, but don't worry. We'll be getting into the details in our panel later today. So stick with us. We'll make sure you are prepared.
Müsste jetzt losgehen eigentlich. Ja. There we go. Oh my God. Alle TBC in den Chat. TBC in den Chat.
To our deep dive panel for WoW Classic. I'd like to start with some introductions with these fine gentlemen with me and myself. I'm Holly Longdale. I'm the principal producer for WoW Classic.
Desto schneller, desto öfter ihr TBC in den Chat schreibt, desto schneller wird's kommen, glaubt mir. Habe ich aus bestätigten Quellen.
And eventually became
TBC in den Chat.
the head of the studio for the EverQuest franchise. That said, I've always been a WoW player since beta, so this is obviously a dream come true for me, and I'm thrilled to be here.
Und ihr erhöht auch eure Chance auf legendären Loot.
I'm the production director for World of Warcraft. I've been at Blizzard for 15 years now, and have been on WoW for most of that time. Avid WoW player myself, and really excited to open up that dark portal again as we all step through it.
And my name's Brian Birmingham, and I'm the lead software engineer on WoW Classic. I've also been at Blizzard for 15 years. I started on World of Warcraft. I spent about 3 years on Hearthstone as well, and then came back to the World of Warcraft team to work on WoW Classic. And it has been a great joy to me to work on this team.
There's a lot to talk about today.
Yeah.
So earlier we announced, yay, Burning Crusade Classic is coming. But there's a lot more to it. Let's take a look at the features.
Geht nicht auf Deutsch.
I mean, wow, right? Wow. I was so excited by playing Draenei and Blood Elves. I played both, and I will say my heart's with Alliance.
Man kann hier nur Englisch auswählen.
And I also took up jewel crafting on my Draenei Shaman. I wanted to corner the market. Just the whole notion of having items with sockets.
Gibt's nur in Englisch,
just
sorry.
Exploring that whole system. I'm also a bit of a systems nerd. So
Bin auf der deutschen Seite.
I completely lost my time for weeks.
Lass aber an für die Leute, die nicht so gut Englisch können bei Nation. Vielleicht können die besser lesen.
I remember being there back then. I mean, it was our first expansion ever. So all the new features was like this really cool moment of like, what's coming next, what's going to happen, and one of the things that was pretty impactful to the game was Horde having Paladins and Alliance having Shaman. I mean, as an avid PvPer myself, I remember going back and trying to fight Shaman. I was Alliance back then, and just not understanding that class at all because my team didn't have it. So like I try to poly them and then be like grounding totem. I didn't know what that was, and it's just like, why are Shaman immune to everything? I don't understand.
That's not what you said.
Yeah, no, I did.
No, you said they're cheating.
I understood polymorph druids, but shaman, why? Like now I started to understand shaman a little bit better. We got some of their benefits. I actually like got to see totems being placed down on my side for once, and got to see the frustration of dealing with Bubble Hearth on the other.
I remember when I was doing raids, we were always jealous of the Alliance having Paladins for Blessing of Salvation. Like people would be pulling aggro off me, and I'd be yelling at them like, "Wait for 3 Sunders!" And the Alliance is just like, "No, it's no problem. Just just go."
So funny.
So hey, I mean, we were upset raiding like Razor Gore without Earthbind. I mean, really even the playing field for both PvE and PvP, which was kind of cool. But there were a ton of new features and just abilities with this too. As we got to level 70 and got to experience new content and new things. I remember one of my first experiences with understanding what it meant for designed by Blizzard, right? Because I was an engineer, right? I wasn't a designer. I was working on like the live ops team at the time, and I was playing my class, avid player of mage, and I kept I sent this long email to Tom Chilton saying like, hey, here's what mage needs.
Dawson Manifesto.
Mage.
So it was a well thought out forum post. And what was in it was things like bring back invisibility, let's get a threat dump in the class. And I didn't even necessarily tie those two together, but he was like, that's a pretty good idea, let's get mages invisibility. And just knowing that skill was coming along with some other new stuff for mages like the
Natürlich hat Mage gespielt.
Was just really cool to see all this new stuff in Burning Crusade.
On the other side of that, I was really excited about Spell Reflect because I was really frustrated getting polymorphed and being able to like reflect that back on the mage.
As a mage, I was not excited for you to go.
I bet you weren't. And there were even some PvE encounters that that had abilities that you could reflect back. So I remember that was really fun to kind of find ways to time that and use it as a defensive ability as well.
I was a hunter.
Mm-hmm. I'm a hunter now,
also a hunter.
actually. Yeah, I've switched.
But I remember just
Der hat am
chasing
meisten Damage
Beastmaster
gemacht.
and just DPS.
Yep.
That was it. That was the chase. Yeah.
Talking about that too is ridiculously
So
arena
weird irgendwie.
system. That was a
Keine
whole
Monate
new
am
world for us,
Frühstückstisch
you know,
los.
with Battlegrounds
Ja,
and
ich
the
war
way they
damals
worked
Jäger.
before, like the way the matchmaking happened, usually I was pretty
War auch
competitive
geil.
in PvP, so I would either get in there and stomp the enemy team who was just there to be casual, or, you know, even though like we were a good team, we weren't
Auge
like
des
the
Sturms,
best
ne,
of the
ist
best.
geiles
So
BG,
when
ey.
we ended up going against one of those
Das
teams,
ist tatsächlich
it was
eins der
just
wenigen
like,
BGs, auf die ich
well,
mich
geez,
freue.
we're just getting stomped now. This is tough. Arenas gave everyone an opportunity to play against equal-minded opponents, right? So if you were a little bit more casual, you get the opportunity to play against people who weren't maybe so competitive. Or if you were like cutting edge, go for it. Like try to be the best of the best. And what was great about that is it spawned an esport. Like that wasn't, we didn't design it for that. We just wanted people to have fun. But when we noticed like, hey, everybody's playing this, everybody's
Meint
like
ihr, hier kommen
competing in
die
this, people
Infos?
are watching it, we had to embrace that. We started featuring it
Oder
at
labern
BlizzCon,
die jetzt
and we've
echt
been
eine
doing
halbe
it
Stunde?
every year since.
Yeah, it's really awesome. I think one of my favorite things to recollect was the exciting zones that you would travel through. One of my favorite memories was actually in the first zone, Hellfire Peninsula, and it was adventuring around in Hellfire Peninsula, going around and doing all those quests, and always living in fear of the Fell Reaper, because you'd be out there collecting parts from like a broken Zeppelin, and you'd be fighting off your Hellbores, and then all of a sudden you'd see the screen start to shake, and like these thump, 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 and then. And you're like, oh my god, I gotta run, he's right on top of me.
Sound still haunts my dreams.
Oh, I know, yeah, it's terrifying.
Even in life, it's just feign death. Yeah.
Yeah, just,
Fand ich echt, wie oft die diese Unterhaltung
and then
geübt haben,
the
ne?
payoff when you later go to Netherstorm and they give you the quest, they're like, could you
Wir haben wahrscheinlich genauso nach Vorgaben, weißt du, 3 Haushalte, sich zu dritt getroffen immer und die Unterhaltung geübt die letzten 3 Wochen.
have to be able to like
Perfect.
bring that full circle and go back and see him again?
For me, I snuck into beta. I got really lucky because I could see the construction sign for some of the zones, and of course I ignored it and went and explored. So I remember running through Blade's Edge and just seeing dragon carcasses, skeletons impaled in the environment, and then moving on to Netherstorm. I just was blown away, even from Zangermarsh all the way through. Everything felt like its own world, and just be able to go through that and just the delight of it and the epicness of it. And then you come up to Area 52. That's what I love about WoW, is you can have epic storylines and still find lightness in it. So I just loved it. I love it. I'm an explorer, so.
You know, for me, I remember Burning Crusade really opened up a new gameplay type for me. I became a collector in Burning Crusade, right? And it kind of started with the Outdoor and Scryer rep. Because I got my outer rep all the way up, and then I was thinking about switching to Scryer, and people were like, "You're insane! Don't do that." And I was like, "I bet I can," just to prove people wrong. And I did, and it was cool. It was really fun. But then I started doing other things. Like there were all these new like mounts and pets, and I went back and even got some of the older reps like Thorium Brotherhood and Winterspring. But then like things like Netherwing Ledge came out. The world just opened up for me in Burning Crusade to really start my collection.
Digga, gib
Of
doch
course, we
einfach
also
ein
had flying
Release-Datum.
mounts, which I loved, and then decided to play with some friends on a PvP server, and was running around Hellfire, and Death from Above, which is likely just Pat.
Probably.
Yeah.
Deswegen gibt's keine deutschen
Flying
Untertitel.
around harassing people, Pat?
Getting a lot of honorable kills back in the day.
So that's just a quick look at some of our memories for Burning Crusade, and that was 13 years ago. So that code has been hanging around for 13 years. And we're not just doing a save as Burning
Jetzt
Crusade
wird's
Classic.
interessanter.
Oh no, it's a lot harder than that.
So let's get into some of those details.
So one of the challenges has been that we don't actually want to ship on the old code, and the reason for that is because it's got a lot of bugs and difficulties with the architecture that we don't want to have to deal with. But we do want that old data, and we talked about this when we did the original launch of Classic, was how the data is really the thing that describes how the game is supposed to be played and what things are supposed to happen in it. And so we want to bring that old data and we want to run it on the modern code, the same as we did for Classic. and there's like 750,000 rows of data that we have to go through and convert from their old formats to their new formats. And fortunately, we have really talented engineers, and we run automated scripts that go through this. But even after we run these scripts, we have to compare them with, with how it used to behave and make sure that we've actually done the conversion correctly. And then there's even some things that are making it more difficult this time, like the fact that we've made a couple of minor changes or bug fixes in the classic data. And we want to make sure that we keep those as we're going into Burning Crusade. So we have to merge those changes with the changes that happened with the Burning Crusade originally, and make sure that we have a coherent set of changes that make sense to bring us from Classic into the Burning Crusade.
There's an enormous amount of time spent looking at, okay, this is how it came out now. We have a reference client that is the original.
That's right. We do use the old code for that. So like we still have it. We just don't want to ship on that anymore. But we have like the old code with the old data, knows exactly how it's supposed to behave. So those things work together, and we can bring that up internally and take a look at it and say like, okay, this is how it was back then. This is exactly what it used to look like. And we do sometimes find things that are bugs we still want to fix, but a lot of times it will tell us like, oh, this thing is not a bug. This is actually the intended behavior, or this is something we don't really remember right. There's a tendency to want to chase your own memory, like, I remember it being like this, and it's like, no, it's not always exactly the way you remember it. Everybody has that kind of human failing, even us, and so a lot of times we'll have an argument about, I remember it this way. Well, I remember it this way. Let's go and check. We can look.
Well, another reason to ship on the new code.
Wer ist gerade noch alles so live, Leute? Schreibt mal rein im Chat, ich kann nicht gucken. Wer ist so live? S-Fund habe ich gehört, Mosens live. SM Gold nicht, ne?
There wasn't cloud architecture.
Stay Safe live?
I remember I had the privilege of being on the live ops team where I got to see what all the servers looked like and how it was all architected. And to pull back the curtain on this a bit, the way it was is everything was its own like server, right? Like they didn't really talk to each other very well. So each realm had 11 blades on it, and these blades were just bare metal blades, and like one blade was for Azeroth, one blade was for Kalimdor, one was for Outland, and then we had some for instances. And back then what would happen without cloud is you would try to request resources, and maybe a lot of people were running dungeons, and so it would give you back things like transfer aborted, instance not found. Oh boy, we don't want to go back to those days. So now we can take advantage of things like the cloud and not have those resource issues. So shipping on this new code is a big improvement in stability.
Yeah, and so we're weaving all these threads together. We did finally get a build for Burning Crusade Classic. Super excited. When the team gets together, we're preparing for a playtest, and we go to create our characters, and we see this blood elf who, he remembers the sun well. He forgot his pants.
Yeah.
So everything didn't work the first time?
What? I know.
Yeah, I did mention we had to go
Sabotage.
through and check for problems in those conversion scripts. So yeah, sure enough, what's going on here is that this guy thinks he's dressed, but he isn't. And you can see why he thinks he's dressed if you look down.
Does that happen to you a lot?
Only in my high school dreams.
You can see if you look at his calves, you can see that he's got they're flared out because he thinks he's wearing boots. And the way this system works is we first set the geometry up for all the items that you're supposed to be wearing, and then we layer on various images that we call textures, and we'd use those to build up a single composite texture that's then wrapped around the geometry. But of course, in this case, when we were layering them on, none of the textures were assigned, so it just started with his naked body, and then was going to go layer on textures and didn't find any. So it thinks he's dressed, and so it's removed the underwear because it thinks it's put clothes on top. But there aren't anything there. They're all just completely transparent. So it's almost like the Emperor's new clothes. He's wearing invisible clothes, only in this case, that's really what's happening.
That's crazy. And then, of course, I wanted to try Draenei because that's where my heart lies. I'm an Alliance girl. And this Draenei looks to be heads above the rest.
That's not the Exodar.
Yeah.
No, definitely not.
It's done Morrow, right?
It is.
That's exactly the problem. It
looks like the Draenei's too tall, but the real problem is that we're in the wrong place. And so, yeah, when you go to the Dunmorrow character select screen, of course, the camera is positioned for much shorter races like gnomes and dwarves. And so it's about knee high on a Draenei.
And then water. Really, Brian? We have water and hellfire?
Yeah, so
Go for a swim.
it turns out that Outlet has a unique feature that it doesn't have any oceans because the water just all falls off the edges.
Ausrufezeichen Discord in den Chat.
I'm not sure how that works in the game universe, but yeah, there's no ocean there. But we had accidentally flagged it to generate ocean, so we ended up flooding the entire world with an ocean until we found that and turned it back off.
So through all of these processes, yes, we're obviously we're fixing what is broken, but also we thought it was a good time to start enacting what we call #some changes to gameplay and how things should work.
Yeah, I mean, when you think about it, like Classic, our guiding principle was no changes.
Jetzt wird
The goal was to
interessant.
provide as true to life, authentic experience of Classic that we
Classic
possibly
wollen
could.
keine Changes machen.
And we accomplished that. What was interesting to me is to see this vibrant community that embraced it and then said, hey, but we're not exactly the same as we were 15 years ago, right? And they're right. Like the times have changed, the world has changed, and so some of those things that maybe were out there that were not great and were warts back in the day is not something that we would want to ship again. Like something that feels a little buggy or wrong or incorrect. So the idea behind this is let's provide what the Burning Crusade experience was without those warts.
This really, I think, illustrates
Bin gespannt, was sie ändern.
difference. Is
Wir werden gleich sagen, was sie ändern.
We actually had a lot of requests originally for spell batching in that kind of no changes charge, where they said, hey, I remember when I used to be able to have two mages polymorph one another and they would both end up polymorphed. And that's cute and fun and I kind of like that. And so we said, okay, well, we can put that back
Batching wird nicht kommen,
the
wissen wir
system
schon.
that causes that is,
Die
of
Frage
course,
ist, was kommt für
spells are
andere
batched up
Changes.
and processed in these giant batches. But over the last 2 years, people realized that what that comes with is about a half a second of kind of built-in latency where you push a button and it doesn't actually take effect for that half a second while it's waiting to queue up the other ones to go with it. And people were starting to find that frustrating. I talked to a lot of people who said they were excited about it when it first came out with Classic, but after they've been playing with it for 2 years, they're really ready to see it go, and we're ready to take it out too. So we're going to remove spell batching with Burning Crusade.
That's definitely great because I remember like every 2 weeks I get a bug report, Vanish is broken again, and it was because of stuff like this, right? Like if you vanish at the same time a fireball's hitting you, it's going to pop you out, right?
Exactly.
Like, and so we were trying to do all these tacky solutions to it, but the real answer is just don't spell batch.
Yeah.
But we didn't have the ability to do that then, so glad we're doing it now.
Yeah.
You know, another one that I can think of is just how the rating community has matured, right? Like things were very different back in 2004, 2005 timelines compared to today. So, you know, the rating community knows exactly what's going on. And they want a challenge, they want more of a challenge. So, you know, rather than always giving them like the last version of the boss, the final form of the boss, which maybe is been hit with a few nerfs. Let's not do that anymore. Let's give them a more challenging version of the boss. Like, I'll give you an example of like Muru. Right?
Es
where
kommt
the initial
Pre-Nerf
version of that boss had a lot of spell
oder wie?
pushback.
Im PvE, Leute.
And so, like, that made it really tough to bring casting classes to that fight.
Lol.
We did fix that pretty quickly and change the fight to allow for that. Now, that's
Damit
a
hätte
change
ich
we
nie im
probably
Leben
would
gerechnet.
incorporate in this, right? Like, we don't want people to feel excluded or not part of being able to do a fight like that. But then, probably a month or so after that, we nerfed Muru's health.
Lol, habt ihr damit gerechnet?
That doesn't need to happen. Let's just keep it in the hard form. We can evaluate any changes we need to make after that. But,
Oh my
yeah, it won't just be
God.
like, hey, final form, we're not even going to look at it. Let's call
Alle
it
mal
a day.
OMG in den Chat.
So how
OMG,
did your mage
OMG,
handle the
OMG.
pushback?
I just.
Ey, damit hätte ich nie im Leben gerechnet.
No, I was the raid leader.
Die bringen Pre-Nerf PvE-Content ins Spiel rein.
That was honestly, that's one of my favorite fights ever in World of Warcraft. That was a really fun fight.
Okay.
That's awesome. Another change that we're talking about making
Vielleicht buffen die
is
es
along the
sogar.
lines of that PvP balance, faction balance, is
PvP.
you know, obviously with Burning Crusade, paladins are introduced to the Horde and shamans are introduced to the Alliance,
Das ist
and that
krank.
was intended to be a balancing of the factions and let's make them even.
Aber
And
halt's Maul.
then they wanted to kind of keep a little bit of flavor of that faction
Wenn jetzt
identity, so they kept Seal of Blood on the
Segel,
Horde
lol,
and Seal of Vengeance on the
Siegel.
Alliance. It was intended to be equivalent power abilities that were just slightly different in flavor, but in retrospect, Seal of Blood was just so much better. And so one of the changes that we are going to make is we are going to give the opposite faction's seal to the other faction, but we're going to do that at max level. So we keep just a little bit of that faction identity, where Horde will get Seal of Blood at level 64 on schedule, and then get Seal of Vengeance at level 70. And similarly, Alliance will get Seal
Junge,
of Vengeance on
verarschen die mich,
64,
oder was?
and then their equivalent, Seal of the Martyr.
ändern sogar die
Another thing we want to talk
Siege.
about is arena teams. When it first came out in Burning Crusade,
Junge, was
the
ist
arena
mit dieser
team system
Firma
only
los?
let you have the same number of players on your team that was the size of the bracket it was for. So, for example, a 3v3 team can only have 3 players on the team. So if someone was like sick
bin zu
or
leise.
unavailable one night, you couldn't play. And that felt really frustrating. So we're definitely going to go with like the last version of that, where you could have twice the size of the bracket on your team roster.
Ach so, ja,
you
das
had
ist-
alternates
ja.
you could swap in and out. And then
Man
that
kann
way,
mehrere
as long as
Mitglieder in
anybody
seinem
had participated
Arena-Team,
in, I
das ist
think,
gut,
30%
aber
of the
ja.
matches, then they got the full credit for the week of participation.
Is that when we did personal ratings versus team ratings?
I think that came later, and we're also considering whether or not we want to do something with that as well. Because another thing that was problematic about
Ihr braucht kein
Arena Split was
Blutelfen-Leveln
the way
für
that the ELO
Blutsiege.
system was so inflationary, and so we're talking about whether or not we want to move forward with converting that to something more like the modern MMR system, so that it isn't as punishing to people in terms of like waiting hours for a match at the highest levels and things like that.
And another change, we
Ändern irgendwas am
we're going
Arena-System, habe ich nicht ganz
to,
gerafft.
give players access to Blood Elf and Draenei early, so that before we actually open the Dark Portals, you'll have a chance to level those up. That's definitely not something we did originally.
Yeah, I remember I had a friend who was really frustrated that the
Junge,
rest of
aber
us were all running
richtig.
around in Outland, and he was like, I'm still back in
Come on.
Outlands.
Ihr könnt Blutelfen und
What is going
Draenei
on?
früher leveln.
When can I play with you guys? So yeah, I'm really glad we're doing that.
Yeah.
Doing that with pre-patch?
Yes.
Yeah, that's the plan.
Yep.
Very
Is,
cool.
Yeah, pre-patch will come out and you'll be able to go start your Blood Elves and
Yep.
Draenei.
And then content. So we've got some phases happening.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So the content phases that we got coming are exciting. We're gonna start with Karazhan and Gruul's Lair and Magtheridon's Lair. And we want to start with just that released because we
Yes.
found with Classic that people
Junge,
really
auch.
enjoy that kind of gear progression. And that's where all the tier 4
Nur
gear
Kara,
is with
Magtheridon und
those
Gruul offen am
raids.
Anfang.
And we want people to have an opportunity to level up, catch up to their friends, and all kind of go through these things together. So as we
Junge,
unlock each chapter, we want to
was
make
ist
sure
mit
everybody
Trommeln?
has enough time to
Stimmt,
be
das
a
ist
part
doch
of
die
that
Frage, was
chapter.
mit Trommeln?
And the next chapter after that will be phase 2, which will be Serpent Shrine Cavern and Tempest Keep.
Yeah.
Then next we move on to
Wer
phase
weint
3,
gerade?
which is
Wer weint auch
Hyjal
gerade?
and the Black
Wie
Temple.
Lutus.
And the reason that's a change is, of course, originally Hyjal was available from the launch of Burning Crusade, but nobody could really get in there because of the way the attunements work. So we'll unlock that as a later chapter alongside Black Temple. And then that'll go with Arena Season 2 at that point. And then Arena Season 3 will come out alongside Zulaman with a little bit of catch-up gear for anybody who's taken that long to catch up. It's another smaller
Ja, das Datum
instance,
fehlt
10
noch.
man. And then finally, Phase 5 will be Sunwell and Arena Season 4.
It's been a very busy year. Yeah.
Yeah, it is. It's an expansion with a lot in it. A lot in it.
And so we spent a lot of time talking about Burning
Ich auch nicht,
Crusade
Josi.
Classic and Burning Crusade, which is exciting. We're very excited about it, but there's a lot to talk about. There's a lot coming, and we want to walk through how this is going to materialize.
Well, yeah, really the question is, we have a diverse player base where people have a lot of different wants and needs. And
Wird
how
nochmal
do we get
interessant.
there? How do we get to the Burning Crusade? Well, the first group of people that we wanted to make sure that we were serving well is those people who do want to go to the Burning Crusade. We feel that most of the community is interested in this. They're going to want to do this. We want to make it simple and easy for them. So how are we going to do that?
As we said earlier, you're going to be able to make a choice. So we'll talk about and explore these choices in some detail, and I'll give you some examples. So
Jetzt wird gezeigt, wie man
to
nach
start
Burning Crusade kommt.
with the current servers you're on now, Classic Live servers, are going to become what we're calling progression servers. And what that means is the servers that are live now will always unlock any expansion we release. So when we get to our patch day, you're going to be presented with a choice. Do you want to continue on into the Burning Crusade, or do you want to move to Classic? So in that space, you're going to do that for every single character. So for my example, I'm on Worm Rest Accord. So I've got a level 60. I am definitely taking that on through to Burning Crusade. But I've got a couple of mid-levels that I know I want to move with my friends.
Na
Those
klar,
are
na klar.
characters I level with my friends in Classic, and I want to continue that journey with them. We want to make it as easy and seamless as possible to just get right into Burning Crusade. But there are options.
Ja, es kommt WOTK auch noch, ist schon bestätigt quasi dadurch.
I know there's a lot of my friends, for example, who maybe
Es geht immer weiter, ne?
didn't really play Classic when it first came out.
Jetzt
Right?
wichtig?
And so now they're behind. And they're interested in playing the Burning Crusade. This was for a lot of people, their favorite expansion that we've done. We want to make sure that those people are served too. And one of the ways we could do that is provide a boost to people who are interested in coming back, that maybe aren't interested in doing the classic WoW experience, but really want to hop right into Outland as quickly as possible.
Yeah, so the team, we spent quite a bit of time discussing it because we want to make sure we respect the time of the people that have been playing Classic for 2 years. But also, we want people to be able to enjoy Burning Crusade if they loved it the first time and maybe miss Classic. So we are going to offer a level 58 boost for purchase, but it does come with some restrictions. So it's going to be 1 per account. It's not going to be usable on Blood Elf or Draenei.
Okay.
It'll have some dungeon blues. It'll have level 40 mount skill, no professions. It's the basics, basically your Outland starting kit.
That's cool. That's a really great way to jump into the game for sure.
Yeah, I like that.
Ich habe meine Twinks umsonst gelevelt.
Look, I know a lot of people came back to play WoW Classic, and that's all that's all they ever wanted. They're like, you know what, Burning Crusade, that's awesome. I'm sure some people are going to love that, but for me, I came back for WoW Classic.
Ja, muss gleich noch drüber reden.
What do they get to do? What's their options?
Yeah, that was really important for us too.
Yeah.
So we had all sat down and discussed like how we should frame this.
Ja,
so
ist okay. Ich glaube, es ist okay. Ein 58er pro Account
the Dark Portal
ist für Bots ein bisschen problematisch.
Before, like, I'll go back to my example for Wormrest. We will be launching Classic Era Realms at the same time as we do our patch, and you will have that choice. So when you make the choice to go to Burning Crusade Classic, or you make the choice, like on my example, my level 40 druid, I want to move that character to Classic Era. And what Classic Era means is that those particular servers are going to stay in that era forever. So that is going to remain Classic till the end of time. It's never going to unlock expansions. You'll be able to make that choice for every single character. Do you go on to Burning Crusade, or do you choose to go to Classic Era? Let's say, you know, you're behind the times a little bit. You'll still be able to have that choice. We haven't locked it to a time window. You're not going to miss the boat to Era.
The choice sounds awesome.
Also man kann seinen
WoW is something that's
Char abspeichern auf dem Classic Server, okay.
Yeah. And I think
wenn man wirklich nur den Boost nur machen kann, wenn man noch keinen 60er hat, ist okay. Kann ich mitleben. Auf dem Account.
You know, some people may not be comfortable with that choice. And while we think that choice is important, we also recognize that there are folks that are going to want to play both, right? Like, yeah, see,
right here.
you have some stuff left to do in Classic that you wanted, and you want to keep that character in Classic, but you also are interested, that same character wants to raid with your friends.
That's exactly
TBC. So what does that look like? How do we make that happen?
So we're going to actually offer a paid service to let you make a copy of your character. And I know like a copy is a big deal. So like you said, like this is something we don't want to make just an automatic choice for everybody. But I know that for me, it really is going to be like that pull to go to both places. So I want to be able to say like, you know what, I'm willing to pay some money for this. I want a copy of my character that lives in Classic Era forever.
Die werden so viel Geld damit machen, Leute. Ne? Es ist so krank.
And that way I can stay with my friends who are really excited to go to Karazhan. I'm really excited to go to Karazhan. I want to see my hunter go through Karazhan. But if I'm missing like a couple pieces of my tier 3 set from Naxxramas, I still have an opportunity to go find a new guild there and go through Naxxramas again until I finish that set.
We're going to be spending a lot of time communicating these details. So even as much detail as we're giving now, it's very high level. There's going to be a lot more detail to come. So keep an ear out. But with that said, so Pat, when's all this happening?
Oh.
Der Joker kann auch ein bisschen netter schreiben.
So yeah, this is something that, you know, is important to get. People are still playing through Naxxramas. We want to make sure that they have enough
30
time to do
Minuten
that.
Timeout gönn dir.
But we are looking at this will be happening in 2021. For sure, we are committed to doing that. And what we're looking at is starting the beta rather soon. So hopefully that beta will go up and we'll get that running. The community can come and participate, help us out. We'll start to hear some feedback on the things we've talked about today. If there's any adjustments we need to make, we want to make sure we have a long enough beta period for that to happen. And then we'll get that out to the players so you can all enter the Dark Portal.
Yay!
Yeah, it's exciting.
So any final
Also wann beginnt die Beta, haben Sie es gesagt?
Well, I just talked about the beta, and you know, I will say just to the community, you all have been so instrumental in making Classic the success that it has been, and you will be equally instrumental in making the Burning Crusade a tremendous success also. So please get in that beta, play, give us your feedback. We want to hear all about it. So.
Oh, sorry, Zen, wir hatten einen falschen Timeout, sorry.
Let's have some fun.
Yay!
Yeah, and it's been the highlight of my professional career to work on WoW Classic and have the support and love of this community. It is really special to me, and I'm really excited to be sharing this with all of you in the Burning Crusade.
Yeah, and for me, I'm I've been playing Classic since it launched, and I wasn't working at Blizzard then, and it's changed my life, obviously. So from me and the entire WoW team, we want to thank you for bringing Azeroth to life for us. So we will definitely be seeing you in game in whatever flavor you choose.
Ja, sorry, wenn
And until then, stay classic.
Stay classic. Man muss aber auch bei all der Euphorie natürlich sagen, klar, es gibt viele Leute wie mich gerade, ne, die sich einfach nur auf Burning Crusade freuen. Aber natürlich mit Classic Plus oder so auch keine. Ich habe jetzt Classic Fresh, habe ich nichts rausgehört. Da müsst ihr euch wahrscheinlich noch ein bisschen gedulden. Ja, es ist ein eindeutiger Weg, meiner Meinung nach, von Blizzard. Sie wollen eindeutig alle Erweiterungen nochmal durcheiern. Wir haben ja vorhin hier irgendwo so einen Screenshot gehabt, ich weiß gerade jetzt nicht wo. Also WOTK wird auf jeden Fall auch kommen. Das heißt, es ist immer der Plan, die aktuellen Server sind die Progress-Server. Ja, das heißt, da wird Burning Crusade drauf kommen. Und wenn Burning Crusade quasi dann zu Ende geht, in 1,5 Jahren oder so, wird der Server in WOTK weitergehen. Und man kann sich quasi dann entscheiden, ob man seinen Burning Crusade Char in Burning Crusade abspeichert. Bedeutet, ja genau, es gab irgendwo so eine Grafik, hatte vorhin jemand gepostet, ja. Ja, das bedeutet, wir haben quasi eine begrenzte Zeit auch in Burning Crusade, so wie in Classic auch, wo wir auf unseren aktuellen Servern Burning Crusade erleben können. Die gehen dann quasi in WOTK weiter. Fresh Classic wird sicherlich noch kommen. Ich denke ein bisschen später, ja. Ja, ich muss sagen, ich bin damit zufrieden, dass es so weitergeht, weil für mich ist auch so dieses einmalige Durchspielen von den Erweiterungen reicht für mich auch irgendwie. Es war von vornherein zu erwarten, dass Blizzard wahrscheinlich nicht sich da den Aufwand machen wird und dann irgendwie eine Classic Plus Inhalte oder Burning Crusade Plus Inhalte zu entwickeln, sondern die gehen einfach quasi die Erweiterung einmal durch, ne? Das ist halt einfach Blizzard und Activision, das muss man einfach so hinnehmen. Ich für meinen Teil kann damit sehr gut leben. Ich weiß, einige haben gar keinen Bock auf weitere Erweiterungen. Die werden dann einfach ihre Chars in Classic abspeichern und fertig. Aber ich hätte nie im Leben gedacht, dass solche Sachen kommen würden, wie man sich Gedanken macht, dass die Siegel auf beiden Seiten kommen und auch, dass die Pre-Nerf-Boss-Mechaniken kommen würden. Was ich ein bisschen schade finde, um auch nochmal mein Fazit abzuschließen an der Stelle, dass sie nichts zu den World Buffs gesagt haben, glaube ich, oder? Also, ob die Classic World Buffs wirklich in Burning Crusade nicht mehr funktionieren und wie es mit den Trommeln oder so aussehen wird, da haben sie nichts zu gesagt. Könnte aber auch einfach sein, dass das für die logisch ist, dass die World Buffs nicht mehr funktionieren in Burning Crusade und die es zum Beispiel deswegen nicht erwähnt haben, ne? Wir werden morgen nochmal gucken, ja, ob morgen irgendwie nochmal neue Infos kommen. Kommt gerne auf meinen Discord-Server drauf. Ausrufzeichen Discord in den Chat. Da könnt ihr immer up to date bleiben. Leute, Burning Crusade Classic kommt. Wir sind drin. Es wird geil. Die Raids werden. Leute, Pre-Nerf. Die Raids werden Pre-Nerf. Es ist nicht zu glauben. War ein mega mäßiger Stream heute, wirklich. Hätte ich nicht erwartet. Ich glaube, über 270 Viewer heute. Absolut krank. Danke für jeden, der heute gesubbt hat. Und grüßt Mosen von mir, ja? Ich bin gehypt, Leute. Unglaublich, echt. Gute Nacht. Ciao, ciao.